Moving on to Farrukh Saab, ICAP is a self-regulatory body, as we all know, and it's a late entrant in terms of the national AML CFT regime. Although a lot has been done in terms of developing a framework and instilling the process within DNFBPs, and that's actually helped us a lot in our FATF action plan. Now, as a self-regulated body, you've issued regulations, you've conducted outreach awareness sessions. I've gone through the ICAP website, and there are numerous such videos available for the general public to see. Now, what are the challenges that you foresee in implementing this framework amongst ICAP's reporting firms? And then how do you plan to check the effectiveness? Because issuing regulations is a starting point, but it's actually the monitoring process which will probably be a bigger challenge. So if you could shed some light on that for our audience and for their better understanding.
Right. Thank you, Stan. As you said, ICAP is a self-regulatory body, and ICAP was included and specified as a regulatory authority in the AML Act. And this happened in the September 2020 amendments that were made. But before that, ICAP was also notified in December 2019 again as a self-regulatory body under the AML Act provisions prevailing at that point of time. And post that, ICAP issued its own AML framework. This is before the AML regulation that we issued now, but at that point of time when we were specified as, notified as a self-regulatory body, the AML framework was issued at that point of time. And under that framework, one of the most important things that we did was to form a separate AML supervisory board. And that AML supervisory board included a nomination from FMU and from SSCP, so it's a 5-member supervisory board who was entrusted to monitor and implement that AML framework that we issued. Of course, that framework was having all the requirements of FATF recommendations and was reviewed at the government level as well. Starting from that framework, the way we approached the whole thing, the AML regime, we communicated with all the member firms, like the chartered accountants in practice. They were contacted to identify a designated person. And through that designated person, then whole communication relating to AML matters started. We first of all assembled them, and we have arranged a training event so that they can get updated about what the requirements are. And once we have done this training, this interaction with the designated persons, we took it to the wider audience of the firm and the partners and other members who are in practice within those firms. So a wider interaction took place. Also, the FMU participated in that. There was a lot of question and answer. A lot of clarification was provided because, this is a new thing, and especially for professional firms, again, to be required to follow a particular framework requirement. So the questions were there, and together with FMU, we kind of updated them and clarified what needs to be done. Two very important steps, again, under that framework that we took were to obtain information from the firms that whether or not they are carrying out the specified activities which were required to be in this whole AML regime, because it's not every service that the professional firm provide falls under the AML regime in Pakistan. This is the accountant-related service and the trust service provider. So it's a kind of a carve-out position from the services that the professional firms provide. So the technology was also used in this respect. A portal was created through which there was a Form A and a Form B. Form A required the firms to provide whether or not they are doing these kind of services, and those firms which are providing such services, then they were required to provide further detailed information on a Form B. So based on that information, we kind of got to know that how many firms are there where we really have to exercise our monitoring, our supervisory oversight role. Once that was done, it was being analyzed at the Institute. This changes in the law then came, and this framework was kind of withdrawn and replaced with the AML regulations under this revised amendments which were made in September 2020. So with these AML regulations now in place from 30th of September 2020, again, the related further regulations like the oversight regime of all the supervisors, then the sanction rules were prescribed. And in that regard, within the Institute, a number of rulemaking was done and approved by the Council that how you're going to sanction in case of any non-compliances. Inspection manual was developed. A complete guideline for accountants were issued. This was prepared, developed in collaboration with the Asian Development Bank. So the feedback that we are having for that guidelines is very, very positive, because those guidelines include every requirement in the AML regulation that has been explained with examples, and we have given sample documentation as well, and that takes into account the various sizes within the profession, because the firms may be small, medium, or large as well. So those guidelines are being followed at that point, presently. I was referring to that Form B, and based on that information, because the services that are within the AML regime, based on that information, certain categorization, risk-based approach to be applied within the Institute to our monitoring. So for that, at the back end, with the use of technology, we also categorize the firm into very high, medium, and low risk rated firms. So now, from January onwards, we have taken.
Sorry to interrupt, but we have little time, so if you could kindly.
Okay.
Shorten
so
the
just
response,
we are into kind of again going into inspections. Presently, the inspections are being carried out, and once that is done, the government will be updated, like what are the findings for that.
Thank you for your comprehensive response. You know, the two things that I really liked about your response was how quickly ICAP has responded, and not only have they worked on the technology side, but they've also brought in transparency by that supervisory board that you have, which is independent, and I think that's a key initiative that you've taken.